Hey, here are 5 stupid things I've noticed about Batman. Bat everything. So Batman is a weird figure of the night, right? He's a grim crusader meting out vigilante justice to the criminals of Gotham City. Well, then what's with whimsically fixing the Bat prefix in front of the name of everything he fucking owns? I mean, there's the Batcave, and the Batmobile, and the Bat computer, and there are Batarangs, and Bat lines, and Bat scopes, and the Bat suit, and Bat Connect for his Bat Xbox, and Bat whole life insurance with optional Bat AD&D coverage from Batual of Batmahal. I mean, maybe this made sense in the 50s and 60s when he wasn't to be so serious and such a badass, but now it's just a little ridiculous. I mean, why does his car have to be called the Batmobile? Can't he just call it the car? Isn't that what you call your car? And speaking of which, the various Bat vehicles. Silly name aside, I can see why Batman would have to have a car. I mean, after all, you can only get so far jumping from rooftop to rooftop or swinging through the city on wires like Spider-Man. And besides, I mean, how is a rope and a grappling hook going to get you laid? Never mind. What I find a little bit more ridiculous is the fleet of other vehicles that Batman has had at his disposal. Over the years, throughout his decades of publication history, he's had not only dozens of Batmobiles, but Bat planes and Bat boats and Bat submarines and Bat gliders and Bat copters, and there was even a Bat subway rocket. I mean, honestly, with all these vehicles, of course he's going to need a big space to keep them safely and secretly away from prying eyes, and hence we have the Batcave, the quintessential superhero lair, one of the coolest places in all of superhero comics lore. But about the Batcave, I do just have one question. Who the fuck built the Batcave? Because it's pretty big. I don't think Batman could have done it all by himself, even with Alfred helping. I think it would have been too big of a job. And given its size and the nature of the work involved in transforming a natural cavern into a secure multi-level subterranean bunker, there had to have been contractors involved. And it's right underneath Bruce Wayne's house. So, I mean, maybe he employed only blind and deaf contractors? I don't know, it's a tough one. I do know this though, if he had just waited a few more years to begin construction, he would have had plenty of help, what with the geometrically multiplying Robins. So back in the day there was just one Robin, and that was Dick Grayson, and he was Robin for like 40 years. But eventually the writers of the comics decided that Dick should grow up and become his own man, and eventually he did, and he left Batman, and he left behind the Robin identity and took on his own superhero persona as Nightwing. Well, after Nightwing went off to do his own thing, Batman found a new Robin, a street kid named Jason Todd, who managed to get himself beaten to death by the Joker in like 5 years. So after Jason Todd was put in the ground, a new Robin came along, and that was Tim Drake. And Tim actually was a really good Robin. He was Robin for a long time. But eventually him and Batman fell out, of course, and he left for a while. And Tim's girlfriend, Stephanie Brown, aka the Spoiler, stepped in, and she was Robin for a little bit until she too was killed by gangsters, although it turned out that she wasn't actually killed, but an old friend of Batman's, Dr. Leslie Tompkins, helped her to fake her own death for her own protection. You know what, it was just comic book stuff, it doesn't really matter. And you know, so Tim came back and was Robin for a while, but eventually he and Batman fell out again for good, or at least for good for now, and he left to do his own thing, and they brought in yet another Robin, and this time it was Bruce Wayne's son with Ra's al Ghul's daughter, Damian Wayne. He's the current Robin. That's a lot of people who either are or have been Robin. In fact, I did a little calculation, and by my reckoning, in another 10 years, every single person under the age of 30 in Gotham City will have been Robin at some point, and if something isn't done to halt that geometric progression, by the year 2056, the entire volume of the DC universe will be occupied by Robins. And I mean, I admit, maybe my calculation might have a flaw in it somewhere. Not so good with the math. But anyway, there is one more thing that has always bothered me about Batman, And it's not so much about Batman himself, but it's when my fellow Batman fans talk about his implausible plausibility. You've seen those filler pieces on the news about the Batman superfans, I'm sure. I mean, every few years, whenever there's a new Batman movie about to open, some news outlet will send a reporter and a camera crew to the home of some poor, neglected tatter of humanity who's devoted his entire life to collecting Batman memorabilia. And they'll have that shot of his one room in his house where the walls are just covered with Batman shit, with posters and action figures still in the original boxes, and comics and, vintage tin lunch boxes and all this stuff. And for a moment, you'll feel envious, and then you'll push that way, way, way the fuck down because you want to have a fucking normal life. And eventually, the reporter will ask the Batman superfan, why is it that you're so interested in Batman? What is it about Batman that's so compelling to you as opposed to any other comic book character? And usually the comic book guy, the Batman superfan, will say, well, it's because Batman doesn't have superpowers. He's not an alien. He's just a normal guy. Batman's just one of us. And Batman is one of us. One of us with a few $billion in the bank and control of a major, incredibly powerful global corporation with a humongous old house to live in and a super secret superhero bunker right underneath it and a fleet of cars and high-tech vehicles and an almost unfathomable level of physical fitness and intelligence and combat proficiency. Actually, come to think of it, it sounds a little bit like me. Hardest part is only picking 5. Catch you next time.